meeting into session. Robert, would you want to go ahead and do our invocation, please?
Father God, we thank you for this day. Thank you, God, how you continue to bless us. God, as we go through this pandemic, something we've never witnessed before and had to go through before, you show us that you're all powerful, God, that when we think that we're in control, we control nothing. You can shut down the world anytime you want. So God, help us to understand that you are in control. Help us to give us a peace that goes beyond all understanding. I pray, God, for the safety of all of our commissioners, their family, our team members. Keep us all covered, Father God, and keep us safe. And continue to watch over our first responders as they are out there in the midst of all the people and trying to help and serve and also be safe so they can come home to their families. God, we just thank you for all you do and help us to trust you through all this. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Madam Secretary, you want to go ahead and do roll call? It'll pick up.
Jeremy Snelling.
Present.
Robert Campbell.
Present.
Bonnie Geppert.
Bonnie, can you hear us?
She's on mute.
Oh, okay. John Aldridge.
I'm here.
Okay. Buddy Parker. Is he on?
No, we didn't.
Buddy is not on. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't have Buddy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Everybody's here
all
except Buddy.
Everybody but Buddy. Okay. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and let's go ahead and get into approval of last minutes. Did everybody have a chance to review last meeting's minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I didn't see anything wrong.
Okay.
I'm
Anybody?
okay.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the
Motion
minute.
by Scott,
Second.
second by Bonnie. All in
Yes.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. All right. Let's see here.
Here, I got.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think I was using my phone. I like making notes on this. Old business. I don't believe we have any old business
I put everything.
because everything's been put on the new business section. And it says here we're going to update regarding the experienced officer hiring list. Do you all want to do that now, or do you want to go ahead and get into the main subject, the amendment?
And the amendment,
We can
subject.
do it. Whatever your pleasure is.
Okay, let's go ahead and just get into the amendment. That way, if anything should go wrong during the meeting, we can just get this main thing taken care of. I believe, Chief, I'm going to give you the floor on this since the Assistant Chief is on the telephone. So I'll go ahead and let you speak.
Really, Bob, ain't it?
Yeah, I just didn't know if he wanted to recap kind of why they were coming to us for this amendment.
Oh, okay.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone, and appreciate you participation, logging on here. Today that we made the request from the previous meeting in regards to updating the experienced hire application process, which is allowing those members to apply for the Jeffersonville Police Department persons and individuals that have graduated the Indiana University cadet program. Our current experienced hire application process is requiring individuals to have 2 years of policing experience. Members of the Indiana University cadet program are graduating, coming out this May. When they come out this May, they're participating in the program their last 4 years of college experience. They are certified police officers and they've worked in the part-time capacity while studying criminal justice, obtaining their certification for policing. So currently right now, just to give you all an idea of the reason why we're doing this is that we have a recruit with the current pandemic that's occurring. The Indiana Law Enforcement Academy has been shut down in the basic recruit class. And therefore, this has caused a backup in the next start, which is obviously unknown with them being out and having approximately 5 weeks to go. We're updating our experienced hire applicant process, and we have to do this through the Merit Board rules. So Merit Commission legal counsel, Mr. Butoff, has been tasked with from the last previous meeting, which occurred in March, to update the commission rules. We're prepared at this time to allow him to turn the floor over to Mr. Butoff and to update us with the information upon request coming to the Police Merit Commission. Mr. Butoff.
I'm gonna slide over a little bit.
Yeah, I sure do. Here's a copy for you. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Everybody doing all right and healthy, I hope. Just for the record's sake, my name's Bob Bodorf, and I am the counsel of record for the Merit Commission. And in front of everyone, you should have, albeit I know it's hard to see, a copy of, and I put it backwards, but it's amendment number 2020-01. So it is a written amendment that was proposed based upon the request of the department. And it is an amendment entitled, but it's amendment number 2020-01.
Got it.
Got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's entitled An Amendment to the City of Jeffersonville Police Department Merit Commission Rules and Procedures, Rule and Procedure number 2.5. So for everyone who is here, may be watching, you may recall that in 2000, and I believe it was 17, there was an amendment to the rules that changed the rules such that it put in place a separate hiring procedure from the normal hiring procedure that was set out under the rules. So you'll note on the first page and the second page of the amendment, I lay out that history pretty specifically based upon what amendments were done to the rules themselves to allow that to occur. So specifically, that happened, I think, on February 22nd of 2017. And that's in the first full paragraph of page 2. So that's just by way of history, okay? The point behind the amendment that we're seeking to put in place or that's presented to the board right now is to change the qualification requirements, which you'll look and see on page 3. If you look there, I don't know if anybody can see that, but in Roman numeral 2, it deals with qualifications to apply as an experienced officer or an experienced applicant, rather. So in my amendment language, I basically put in there so it was real clear what was original language and what was added language. So if you look under Roman numeral 2A, it's got a list of A through G originally, and I added in H. And H indicates that in order for an applicant from, let's see, just starting from the top, to be considered for the appointment to the experienced applicant eligibility list, applicants must meet the following requirements in addition to the minimum requirements for all applicants. So then there's a list of the requirements, and one of those is that the applicants from within the state must have graduated from one of the following, and it includes the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy, the Indiana State Police Academy, and it lists out a number of different academies. In addition to those academies now, it will indicate H, if you guys approve this amendment, it will indicate an applicant could have graduated from the Indiana University Police Academy, or rather as part of the Indiana University Cadet Officer Program. I think that's an accurate statement as to what happens if you're in that cadet program, is you go through and you graduate from the Indiana University Police Academy. I may look to you, Chief, or to Assistant Chief to clarify that and let me know that that is in fact the case.
Okay, Bob, there's some feedback somewhere. So can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, so looking at your document here, that is the case. Basically, what we're seeking is to allow a Indiana University cadet student who has graduated from both the cadet program as well as the school the ability to be accepted in the experienced police officer program that we have here at the Jeffersonville Police Department. So I've looked at all the language, and it was my understanding, because I'm looking at 2B, and you have 3 or 4 different scenarios here as to which one you thought the wording was the best. Is that right?
Well, yeah, and I haven't gotten there yet. I just wanted, before I get to that, I'm gonna,
All right.
I want to make sure that the language in H met your all's understanding of what we were looking to do.
Yes.
And I think the answer to that is yes. So questions about that language before we move on from the commission members? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to move on. If you need to go back to that, let me know. Okay. So then flipping over to page 4, if you look at 4, this would be Roman numeral 2 and then paragraph B. Underneath paragraph B, it originally stated that in order to qualify to be on the applicant eligibility list for experienced officers, that the applicant must have at least 2 years experience as a full-time sworn police officer with another police agency. Okay, so this language would change based upon this amendment. That part that I just read would stay the same, but there would be something in addition to it to allow someone who's been through the cadet program and been a graduate to participate. Okay. So, and as Scott kind of referenced, I put in multiple paragraphs here because I anticipated that there would be question as to what what the timing of that would be. Okay. So if, you know, the very first one, it indicates for purposes of fulfilling the 2-year experience requirement, the applicant's successful completion of the cadet officer program. I'm sorry. Let's see, for purposes of fulfilling the experience requirement, the applicant's successful completion of the Indiana University Cadet Officer Program, the completion of all required coursework, and having graduated from a 4-year undergraduate program received from the Indiana University will fulfill that 2-year experience requirement. Is that your understanding, Scott?
It is, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the way I look at that, and I talked to McVoy yesterday about this a little bit, just to fill you guys, everybody in on that. In order to have gotten through the program, you would have had to have completed all of your coursework and graduated. Is that a correct statement?
Yes, and also we have Mr. Butoff, just to note, we do have Vice President Craig Jackson on here, who is a graduate from Indiana University law enforcement and Indiana University as an undergraduate as well.
Okay, good, good. So I guess I don't know who wants to field this question, but I want to make sure that in order for an individual, in order for them to meet the qualification of H, which is they've successfully completed a basic law enforcement training course through the Indiana University Police Academy as part of the cadet program. they would have had to have graduated in order to have successfully completed that. Is that correct? And I just throw that out for everybody.
I can answer that if you'd like, Chief.
Go ahead, Craig.
Okay. So the police academy would occur in between school years. So hypothetically speaking, you could complete the police academy, become a sworn certified police officer. The idea is that you continue, you work as a sworn police officer as you finish your IU degree. Hypothetically speaking, someone could drop out of school after finishing the academy, but at that point, their employment with the police department would end as well.
Okay. Okay. So in essence, it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong here, that was Craig Jackson.
Oh, okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong here. So you could qualify for, even if you hadn't graduated from Indiana University. If you look at A1H, which is the new language there for applicant eligibility. Is that your all's understanding?
Yeah, I mean, technically, if, yeah, you completed the training but dropped out of school, would we still want to hire you is the question, I guess.
Right. Well, and I guess my point is that you could have gotten through the law enforcement training course portion, which is a requirement to be eligible to apply as an experienced officer, but not be eligible under sub B because you don't meet the 2-year experience requirement.
Right. And we had that discussion. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah. So I guess for the purposes of the commission's policy determination here, we're basically substituting in the graduation from the program and from undergraduate to get their degree for the 2-year experience requirement that you normally have to have. And Scott Aldridge and I, Commissioner Aldridge and I, talked yesterday about, well, would we want to have someone who had not graduated but yet still be eligible to apply? And that's a policy decision I think you guys need to consider and make today. And so these paragraphs kind of lay out those different possibilities, if you will.
My stance on it, and this is my feeling, is I'm gonna go back in, is if they do not complete the program and graduate, then I feel they should not be able to apply, because then you're opening the same door that, well, all they've done really has completed the academy, and then they're getting a leg up on anybody, say, on the new hire list that's never been, the unexperienced list. They could have had the academy, another place could have sent them, sponsored them to go, even if they paid for themselves, and then apply with us and say, well, these people here didn't graduate the IU program, they just did the academy, so why don't I get that position? So I feel we're kind of waiving the 2 years experience from other departments because of the graduation of this program. Not just the academy, it's the graduation part. So I feel, in my stance is, I feel that you should have to graduate before you become eligible to be part of this. But if you've graduated, and I'm not saying the academy, I'm graduating the program, because you can't do can't graduate from the program unless you've done the academy. I understand, correct? You have to be a graduate of that first before you can even graduate from the program. So therefore, that's kind of safety net there. So as long as they have graduated from that program, we know they've passed both those, the academy plus, the program. So that's kind of my stance on it. We're waiving the 2 years of experience from just a standard department, because we're saying, okay, by the time you went to the academy and you've done the whole program at IU and graduated there, that equals kind of, what I'm saying, that 2 years. So that's my stance on it.
Okay.
And I think, I'm trying to remember which paragraph, you had one that kind of
Well, this one,
Yeah.
I guess this part talks about, and I'm looking at paragraph B with the extension language or the language that we've added in, would just say that you have to have done all those things. Then the next three paragraphs talk about what completion means. And this really gets into when am I eligible to apply? Okay. So if someone is, let's say we begin the application process, which the proposal is to begin accepting applications as of April 15th and extend that, I believe, through May 15th, or rather June 15th, or maybe June 1st.
No, you were correct. You were correct, Mr. Butoff. As you stated, I think it was May 15th at that time.
Okay, well, and if that's the case, okay, let's just say that that's the situation, and let's say this was effective today, and there were students in the program who hadn't graduated yet, right? I mean, formally had not finished all of their classwork, then they would, I guess that's a question, is are they technically allowed to apply, or do they have to have matriculated already? And that's a question I think we've got to put out there and answer now, because otherwise everybody's going to be wondering, what does eligibility under this rule mean? Does that make sense?
So in this scenario that you're describing now, you could have seniors who are scheduled to, well, there won't be a walking, but say their graduation date's May the 4th. On May the 5th, they could submit their application stating that they've successfully completed the program, the cadet program, they're certified from the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy, and they've graduated. And there's no issue because the application period runs through May the 15th. In this case, I mean, I can't predict any future hiring processes or what those dates are, but I guess the language is reading that at the time that you submit your application in an open application period, and you have met the criteria for what we are trying to decide here tonight, then as long as you're within the time frame of the open application period, you're good to go. That's the way I take that.
That's correct. And the actual graduation, Mr. Butoff, I did the research on it. It was scheduled to be May the 8th, Friday, May the 8th.
Okay, I understand. Well, so in light of that analysis, okay, so there are 3 paragraphs underneath subparagraph B. The first 2, I guess, describe completion as meaning something different than what we're talking about. Really, the 3rd paragraph, which says completion means the person has graduated and received an undergraduate degree from Indiana University or any participating campus prior to the date of the submission of the candidate's application. Is that what you guys are advocating in that sense?
Yes, prior to the submission of the candidate's application.
Okay, so that's the 3rd paragraph. So in essence, when the commission, for the commissioners who are listening to this, so you can make sure we're following along, if you look at B, and I know that this comes up on my screen backwards. I don't know if it does on yours. But if you look at sub B under Roman numeral 2, and then you count down 3 full paragraphs underneath of that, that paragraph, the 3rd one that's in italics and bold, basically requires that the candidate for application would only be eligible to apply given that they had actually graduated from the university as of the date of the application. If you look at the first 2 paragraphs, those are talking about another scenario, which I didn't know what the commission would want to do. So I put them all in there so you could consider them all. But one of them was, the first one is that, it was, they would be completing the program as of the date of the acceptance of the position. The other one is, before they were placed on the experienced eligibility list. So, and that would, I guess what that would, those two options I thought might apply if we opened the list up in February, ran it from February through, say, March, and then we didn't get the list prepared until after May, there might be some people who would fall off. But it might be easier to have a bright line rule that if you're going to apply, you have to be a graduate of the program completely.
Right. I mean, we're asking people to apply now from the Madison Police Department with 2 years of verified law enforcement experience. And the caveat to the IU process is we have substituted. Bob, I don't know what you're doing to them kids back there, but
Well, that's not
I'm gonna
me.
call CPS here in a minute.
Yeah, I've got witnesses here.
But I agree with a line down the middle, a clear line down the middle. You're taking the 2 years verifiable law enforcement experience that some people already have, and you're substituting the IU portion with that. I think that's a fair trade-off, in my opinion. I think that's the best route to go. Of course, that's for the commission to decide, and that's just my opinion.
Yeah. Any thoughts from the commissioners on this point? I know Scott and I talked about it yesterday.
Well, I think the experienced officer list usually is, I mean, we open that up a lot more frequently and it exhausts more rapidly. So I think having the stipulation of being a graduate makes sense because they'll have another opportunity to apply probably again. So I think making sure that they've graduated is not unreasonable.
Okay. Now, and then any other discussion on that point, and then once we get done with that, I'm going to go to the last bit of change that I made, and then that'll be real quick. This was the most time consuming. Bonnie, anything?
I think they should have graduated too.
Okay.
I mean, I agree with Scott.
Okay. Robert?
I'm okay as long as I think the part that they are as long as it gets in at the time of application, I think that makes sense. I wouldn't want it to be that one time when we do the placement, because they may not graduate. That means we wasted all their time,
Right.
and invested in them. They're not there. So I think that would just be too chancy for us to waste a lot of time if they don't make it. So I think it needs to be at the time of placement. So using Kenny's example, if they graduate on the 8th, they could actually put that application in and have them for 15.
I do have a question for Craig. Does everybody who participate in the program get an opportunity to work on campus?
Yes, that's the whole idea. So
Okay.
everyone, if you don't have any time left in your undergraduate schooling, you're not eligible to attend the academy. You have to have at very least one semester left to serve as a police officer on the campus to go through the academy. Most officers will have one full school year under their belt of working. Some, myself included, had 2 years. It just depends on when you turn 21, how early you can apply. So they will, at minimum, have served one semester as a police officer for IUPD, but that's the minority. Most have a year or more.
Do you get enough, if they have one semester, do they get enough dealing with enough diversity on calls that you'd feel comfortable?
That first semester is the busiest part when all the new students come in. That's when all the kind of the craziness happens on campus.
The fraternity.
That's when that first semester is where there is the highest volume of calls, where they're exposed to the most.
Okay, so you think a semester is plenty?
I would say so. As long as they went through our field training program, I would be okay with it.
All right, thanks for that feedback.
Okay. Any other questions on that issue, or comments or discussion? Good?
Yes, sir.
Thumbs up? Bonnie, you with me?
Yeah.
All right. So then the very last section that there was an amendment to was really sub C under qualifications. And it basically requires the applicant to consent to verification from the university of all the information that they normally be required to. So similar to the way an officer or an officer with 2 years of experience would have to consent to have their records reviewed at their previous department, so would this individual have to have the university provide that information to the department as a part of the hiring process. I thought that I think that all goes without saying, but I wanted to have that language in there to make that absolutely clear. So I didn't feel like there'd be a lot of question about that. I really thought the question was in the timing of when an applicant becomes eligible for purposes of applying. So any questions about that last bit of language there?
Was that still under qualifications?
Yeah, it's under qualifications, and it's
Bottom of 4?
it's C. It's towards the bottom of 4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I do have one general question.
Yeah.
Do we have in there anywhere that the applicant must be a serving police officer with full police powers before they can apply?
I think that is a requirement of being a cadet.
I'm not talking about just for this. I didn't see it anywhere.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if that's something we should have in there.
Well, it says experience as a full-time sworn police officer with another police agency. So I don't know if
So that covers that.
Yeah, I feel like that covers it. And that was, if you look at B, like the paragraph B, I added all of that extra language on there, but originally it just said, in order to qualify as an experienced applicant, you must have at least 2 years experience as a full-time sworn police officer with another agency, another police agency specifically. So that's kind of what I would point to.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I was wondering if somebody had served and then they resigned and they met the criteria other than, but yeah, I'm comfortable with it. I just didn't notice it. And that was my note.
Yep. I think the remaining portions of the rule continue to be applicable, and there really weren't any changes to that. Was there anybody that saw anything different in that regard? I know it makes for very interesting reading.
It does.
Yeah,
I take offense to that for those of us that review and read these things, Bob.
Well, I'm the one that wrote it, so I
was going to commend you, Counselor, on your writing abilities.
Yeah. Okay.
Robert, I just spent a whole day in Salem, Indiana, fighting about who's going to be the mayor, and the election was obviously November of 2019. Everything you did, I found interesting and compared to my day to day.
Yeah, that might be the first time someone's ever told me that.
You are far more interesting than Mr. Leatherberry today. Trust me.
Oh, I can imagine.
Even his wife doesn't tell him that.
Yeah, I know. You're right. Yeah. Okay. 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 With that said, if there's no further questions for me, I'll kind of stand back and then let the meeting proceed. I think I've kind of exhausted everything I had to say, and actually, this is the most I've talked in about 4 weeks.
Do I need to vote on the proposal?
Yeah, I think that I'm going to turn that back over to Jeremy and let him take motions and all that jazz. Now,
Bob,
what
you want
do?
to open the floor for public discussion? I do have the FOP Vice President here attending the meeting as well.
Oh, sure. And I think that's fine. I'm just going to turn it over to Jeremy to go through that process. But let me just say before we go through, I've got what will be the original rule that is right here. And so whatever language that you guys adopt, I will white out the other paragraphs that do not apply. Okay. So if you look at sub B, the original will have whiteout of the paragraphs that they decide not to adopt. So we can exit out on your own personal copy. That way you know exactly what we're talking about, okay? So I'll turn it back over to Jeremy. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm just gonna go over who we have on the call right now, just for our secretary. Of course, the roll call we did earlier. We got Assistant Chief McVoy, Chief Kavanaugh, Attorney Larry Wilder. It looks like Craig Jackson and Anthony Stewart's on here, but their cameras are not up, so I don't see them personally. I see their names. There we go. Anthony Stewart's on here now. I see him. Looks like
Craig
Jackson. There's Craig.
I think Mr. Stewart was off camera because he's wearing a pink shirt.
Yeah, I kind of noticed that. It's also, Major Hustle.
They both have faces for radio.
And I don't think that Mr. Wilder can speak about wardrobe.
Well, yeah.
Craig, the deer head is interesting. That's a nice touch.
Thank you.
Craig, do you hold an office in the FOP?
I'm vice president.
Oh, you are the vice president? Okay, yeah, so you're the vice president. I know Anthony was the president, so Craig's vice president. And that was just kind of some housekeeping stuff, secretary. So back to the amendment. It sounds like we're all got the same consensus what we want to do with it. I think it's a great idea to do this. I think it's going to help the hiring process tremendously. Hopefully it will help replenish, our department quickly. So I'm going to open it to taking them. Is there a motion on the floor? I'm going to allow y'all to stew on it for a minute, and then I'd like to hear a motion. And if not, then we'll go elsewhere.
Well, what I would say is, and I don't mean to interrupt, but
Okay.
I want to. What I would do is looking through where there are multiple language proposals,
Specifically stated.
which is in sub B. I would say look through and go through the paragraph and say, is there a motion on the floor to approve the language of paragraph B, and then underneath that, the first full paragraph.
Gotcha.
If that dies, then you go to the next one and then the next. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's just a good way to keep
Are
it
you
straight.
saying this was number one?
Correct. Okay. Everybody sees B. So do we have a motion to accept the language of paragraph B as written?
Well, the third paragraph in B, isn't it?
Well,
We're going to go through each one to eliminate.
yeah, that way I can go ahead and wipe them out as we go. Does that make sense?
I highlighted mine on the screen.
B1.
Okay. So the first paragraph
B1.
of B itself. Do we have a motion to accept that as written? The first paragraph. Okay, I hear no motion.
I think they're confused.
Yeah.
I think they think you're
Yeah,
asking
I'm
for-
talking about just letter B itself. Is everybody fine with that language as it's written? Just paragraph where you see B in that first paragraph, not the three below, just the B itself.
Can we just make it simple? Can we just say that,
Yeah, that's
just, Bob, why don't you just read, we think we're all in agreement with the third paragraph. Why don't we just read that third paragraph and let's vote on it?
That's fine. That'll be easy, Bobby.
Okay.
All right, I've got it up. You want me to read it?
Then I'll make, that's
All
fine.
right, Scott, you do it.
All right, I make a motion that we approve the language under paragraph B. The one that reads, for purposes of this subsection, the term completion shall mean the candidate has successfully completed all requirements of the Indiana University Officer Cadet Program, has successfully completed all required undergraduate coursework, and has graduated and received an undergraduate degree from the Indiana University, in parentheses, any participating campus prior to the date of the candidate's placement on the experienced applicant eligibility list.
Okay, I have a motion by Scott to accept the
Second.
language. Second by Robert,
Wait,
I think. I think that's what came through.
Yes.
Okay.
is that what I thought that we were looking at the third paragraph.
Yeah.
That is the third, isn't
It
it?
is third.
No, that's the second one. I guess the second sub paragraph, if you look at,
Oh, I see. what
Okay,
you're
that's fine
saying.
then. All right.
Okay.
We counted third because you went from, we include that first one that's in B. Okay.
I'm
Okay.
sorry. Yeah.
That's what I was trying to make sure.
All right. Do you want me to reread that one?
Let's go over it one more time.
Yeah.
What's
All right.
what's the exact motion you have, Scott?
Section 3.
I make a motion to approve the paragraph B selection that reads, it'd be the one right before C.
Yeah.
For the purposes of this subsection, the term completion shall mean the candidate has successfully completed all requirements of the Indiana University Officer Cadet Program, has successfully completed all required undergraduate coursework, and has graduated and received an undergraduate degree from the Indiana University, any participating campus prior to the date of the submission of the candidate's application.
Okay.
And
That's
so
the paragraph that
make sure he's
I
asking.
propose to vote on.
Okay.
Motion.
In that motion, Scott, are you asking to strike the or the two previous ones above it?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and then otherwise approve the.
And
the
otherwise,
remaining
yeah, and
language.
otherwise approve the language that you just read of the third section.
Correct. And
Okay.
otherwise approve the language
All right,
as
so we have the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Robert. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
aye.
Aye.
Please raise your hand if you oppose now.
Oh, let me get on the.
Okay, motion carries 4-0. We have now adopted that language.
Yeah, let me take that. I'll let you know with this one.
Okay, now we're gonna go down to section C, or that's where you made your other change. No, you made your other change on.
So the first one was here,
Yeah.
yes, and then the last one was over here, and then what I would do is just, oh, I'm sorry. It's there,
Yeah, I think it's just
And
language
then-
here.
there.
Okay, now we're gonna go on to the other section that we had just previously discussed with Bob,
Which is,
which would be if you go, Patty, if you go to page,
the next page.
let's see.
I numbered my.
Yeah, yeah.
pages.
Well, actually,
Number them next time, Bob.
What's that?
Number them.
We need number the pages next time. Might be a little helpful.
Yeah,
Fine.
Okay.
I realized I did that after the
because this is the
fact.
language right here is what we're.
Okay, where
That
you
you've
at?
added. Go to the next page, or the page where we were just on, go down to C. Right, you see that, Patty?
Hold on.
And then where he's got in bold.
Yeah, where it says any applicant.
Correct.
Eligibility, okay.
Okay. So now we need to review that language there. So whoever would like to make the motion, would you like to make the motion and read that language?
I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the additional language in paragraph C. Any applicant whose eligibility is based upon the completion of the Indiana University Cadet Officer Program must consent to verification from Indiana University of completion of the coursework requirements and consent to release of all academic records and records of the Indiana University Police Academy.
Okay.
Second it.
Okay, I've got a
I'll
motion,
second.
and I got seconded by Bonnie. All in favor, please raise your hand, stating aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed, raise your hand at this time. Motion carries 4-0. So that language now has been adopted. And then that should
I think the first one.
the verse, go back to.
Yeah, it's a. Yeah, and
Okay, if you go to, would be our page 3, you'll see qualifications.
I make a motion to approve the addition to the list of police academies by adding Number H, under qualifications, the Indiana University Police Academy as part of the Indiana University Cadet Officer Program. I also make a motion to approve and add this to the qualifications or the amendment.
Do you add a
Second,
It's the letter H. Okay, I have a motion by Scott. Do I have a second?
second.
Second by Robert. All in favor say aye and raise their hand.
Aye.
Opposed at this time, please raise your hand. Motion carries 4-0. That language has been adopted and added to.
No, I would probably just do
Robert
a
second?
final.
That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah,
Complete the amendment.
yeah,
Right.
okay.
So this is what I was going to do, and our attorney said it was the right thing to do too. So I'm at least on the same page. What we want to do is make now an overall motion to accept the amendment of number 2020-1. I need a motion to accept it as now written as and adopted.
Make a motion that amendment number 2020-01, an amendment to the City of Jeffersonville Police Department Merit Commission rules and procedures rule and procedure number 2.5.
Okay, motion by Robert. Do I have
I'll make a second.
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 Okay, so Bonnie second. All in favor, say aye and please raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed, this is time to raise your hand. All right, motion carries 4-0. We now have a new adopted rule for amendment number 2020-01.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Good work, everyone.
Appreciate your help.
Okay, Chief, any other further discussion that you'd like? I mean, with the next topic?
No, not at this time. Appreciate everyone's time and efforts on this, especially right now. We're at a critical time where we have five recruits to get hired. Thank you.
Okay, I'm signing and date this.
Yeah, I'd go ahead.
Today's the
Today is
14th.
14th.
The 14th. What I'm doing, so everybody knows, I have just signed and dated the amendment so that it is now put in place. For your all signature, I guess what we can do, would they accept it with my?
I'm going to Bob.
Yeah.
Yes, Larry. You muted yourself, Larry.
Yeah, you're on mute.
Sorry. At the city council level, we've kind of interpreted all of that language on the emergency to where the president signature is enough with an acknowledgement. So I would think Mr. Snelling probably falls under that kind of that same parameter. Probably doesn't need that one signature.
That's kind of what I was thinking too.
Yeah, I think that we're good on that.
Got the attestation.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Larry.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a good evening. Okay, let's go on to also, we were going to get an update for the experienced officer hiring process. And I believe also requesting to begin a new experienced officer list. Chief, do you want to address that or Assistant Chief?
And that. I did and that.
There, Bob or Jeremy.
Okay.
The first item was addressing the current experience list, which has now been officially exhausted. I received a letter from Mr. Despain, who's requested his name be removed from the list, which means that there's no one on that experience list now. And that leads us into the second, and I'll forward that letter to HR, the removal letter, which leads us to the second order of business would be to open up an experience hiring process from April the 15th through May the 15th for 30 days, ending May the 15th at noon.
AC, how many people did we actually hire off that list?
We hired one.
And how big was the list originally?
I believe there was 6 on it originally. We had we had 2 drop out within a week or 2 for whatever reason. They don't ever give me a reason why they're not coming, but they just said they want their name removed from the list. 1 that took another job somewhere, and then 3 that were actually placed on the list. One of those decided to stay at Louisville. 1 is out on the street right now in the FTO program. Officer Dalton is doing a good job. I think Mr. Aldridge remembers him. And,
Yes.
And Mr. Despain, who unfortunately couldn't get the required paperwork for the background check completed, and we need to move forward. So he can, by him removing his name from the list, he can reapply at a later date at any time.
Okay.
So that's where we're at. And then we're still cycling through the inexperienced list, which we've made some progress in that as well. I think Mr. Cranford came back from the academy. He's 5 weeks short. They canceled the academy class due to the COVID situation. So he's out now, riding, working, learning, and training. And once the academy opens back up, he'll go back and finish his 5 weeks. However, and this is a good reason why we have this experience list, is the academy is going to be pushed so far back, it's going to be nearly impossible for us to
get them in.
put new hires into the academy. We're just going to have to deal. This will have ramifications for the next 18 months, I would assume, at the law enforcement academy. So, but the actual request was to open up a new experience list beginning tomorrow through May 15th at noon.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Does he have a list now with names on it?
Assistant Chief, I'm being asked by our secretary if you have a list of experienced at this time.
No.
Are you talking about like this, the previous list?
Exhausted.
Now.
Do we have any name? We don't have any names left on the other one, correct?
No.
Right. It's exhausted, right?
Okay.
Right. There was only 3 on it.
Right.
Yeah. So
Okay.
there shouldn't be
Okay.
anybody.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. I have a motion, I believe, by Robert, wasn't it?
Yes.
To opening the experienced hire. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I have a second to open and start the process.
All right. I have Robert as a motion, second by Scott. All in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed this time, please raise your hand. Motion carries 4-0. Bonnie did. Okay.
No, I thought Bob-
I'm sorry, Scott. Robert made the motion. Scott seconded, and motion carried 4-0. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and move on. Since we have Mr. Stewart on here and Mr. Jackson, do you want to go ahead and we got room for public comment right now? And I didn't know if you all wanted a chance to take the floor for a few minutes to discuss anything you all may have or want to update us on the FOP.
Nothing to update for as far as the FOP is concerned. We do appreciate all of you being adaptable to the circumstances and carrying the business of the city and the department forward. Greatly appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Mr. Jackson, anything from you?
I'll second that. Thank you all for your work.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll go ahead and move now into listening to the claims. I have a few of them here. The first one we'll start with is from our secretary, and that's Ms. Patty Rush, of course, and it is invoice number 2020-04. It's for the April 14th meeting, which is today, for $100. Do I have a motion to pay to her?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion by Robert, second by Scott. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye at this time. Opposed, this is your turn. Motion carries 4-0. She's very grateful. That stimulus check hadn't came in yet.
No.
Okay, I also have an invoice here, and it's from our attorney, and it's invoice 00550, and it's dated April 13th, 2020, and it's for the balance of $1,215 even, and he's broke down everything, of course, like every, I don't know if y'all can see this or not,
Like he always does.
but basically every time he submits his claims, he's got everything, a line item for everything he did in the time frame. So do I have a motion to pay our attorney?
And he did send us a copy of it too. So I'll make a motion.
Yeah, you all should have gotten in your email.
Yeah. I'll second it.
Okay, I third it.
Okay, so who made the motion? We got Robert. Robert made the motion.
All right.
I heard second from Bonnie.
All right.
All in favor, please raise your hand. Say aye at this time.
Aye.
Opposed, please raise your hand. Motion carries 4-0.
They're not both.
Okay, and then I believe that's the only invoices. I did not receive anything from Assistant Chief or Chief. Did the department have anything to submit to us, invoice wise?
No, not at this time.
Okay. All right. Seeing that done, does anybody have any comments they'd like to discuss or bring up?
Can you sign the voucher thing for us? Do we have to send this back in?
Okay, I did not. Do you have a copy? That's what I was asking my attorney.
Oh, I do. Hold on.
He's supposed to print me a copy.
Let me grab it. I'm
Um,
sorry. I thought I printed them all out.
and this could be another question for Larry. I don't know if he can hear us still. Larry, can you hear us?
Oh, yeah.
With the pay voucher, what we have to do is that for every meeting attended, we have to sign that we attended. Would it also, carry if I signed that and then mark who was here and show
Absolutely.
Parker wasn't? Okay.
Absolutely. And then you would send that on to Heather Metcalf, correct?
Okay. Yes.
Are you still sending stuff to Miss Gill as well? Like
Well,
you did when-
actually, what I do is after every meeting, we have a folder that we put everything in. I take it and deliver it to Miss Gill's office at the end of the meeting every time. So what I'll probably do is sign this, and then I can take it to her tomorrow.
And if you take and ask her, Jeremy, about getting it on the claims list. I know that the agenda went out today, but if you get on the claims list, and obviously we're doing things like this, they'll probably add it and pay it tomorrow, or I mean Monday at the meeting. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I'll hand deliver it, like I normally do, and ittle be
Actually, just I don't mean to jump in, but I talked to Peggy Hardaway on I guess it was Monday, and she told me that it'd be okay if I just scanned those and emailed
Perfect.
them to her.
Perfect.
What I intend to do is just go ahead and scan them here at my office. That's why I had Jeremy come here so I could scan them and email them over. So I may just do that, and we may hand deliver them as well. But I figure that'll be belt and suspenders, so to speak.
Oh yeah. I've found these new things where you can thumbs up and stuff. I'm just
that's
expanding my Zoom horizons.
We're old fashioned in my office.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it seems like that is all we have to discuss this evening. Joe, did you have something? I saw you pop back up your camera, so I didn't want to put you out of there. Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
All right.
I'll be Bob.
I'll second that.
Second by Bonnie. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please raise your hand this time. Motion carries 4-0. Everybody, I just want to say, forget your Kentucky. I just want to say, be safe. I know this is a rough time, and if you all need me for anything, do not hesitate to call me.
Good, guys
Thank you.
and ladies. Take care.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate everything and all the help with this. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.